Red blood oath. I stand 2 ball full stiff at attention twice a day and put my hand over my heart and make the one nation invisible oath. It's a real live red blood brother oath over the heart, just like a genuine Viking. And if I'm good, maybe Mr. President will give me one of them Viking boats with shields on it, because I'll fight Mad Dog Mean to the death like Granddaddy and Papa said. The Pledge of Allegiance is the word of God. E pluribus unum, non nimitti patri. One nation invisible over my heart. And when I fight, maybe I'll get one of me them noble deaths and go straight to paradise with Jesus and St. Nick, and we'll have nothing but Coca-Cola and McDonald's cheeseburgers and apple pie for dessert, just like Daddy did killing the Charlies, and Granddaddy killed the Jerrys, and Papa shot the Japs. There's 2 Jerrys in my class. I'm going to kill some people too one day when I get big. I pledge allegiance over my heart. So just explain this title really quickly. This poem is it's a playbill, and it's set up like a playbill. Right? You got setting, characters, all that stuff. And Tom was, I thank him for publishing my chapbook, and I got the good news that Canberra Press, who I believe published something of Bruce's, will be publishing my full-length book of poetry called The Clay-Stained Tongue. So it's very character-driven, like the chapbook, and so I thought the way to introduce it would be with a playbill. So The Clay-Stained Tongue playbill. All right? Hold on 1 second. The Clay-Stained Tongue playbill. The setting. Middle Georgia, river bottom region. Foothills fade to cotton flats and black alligator swamp, where live oaks have caterpillar cobwebs and Spanish moss beards. Home of 1,000-pound hog tap dancing in the mud slough, of honeysuckle sippers, maypops, and wisteria fist-fighting kudzu over pine forests that stay dark and deep even in the dead of winter. The hunt is always on here. Dramatis personae. There was Walking Man. He walked 40 days and nights like Jesus in the Vietnam. He's still there. Walking Man does a push-up when a car backfires and shoots back with a pine stick. He's where my long lines stop fighting for them. There was Sammy Legs the Bum. Sammy had no lips and a face like a paper bag stretched thin. He wore a suit and feather hat like 1950. He had ankles way below his pants, looked like a granddaddy long legs, and taught me the everybody kindness. There was Rip Van Winkle, the good old country boy, front porch man. Rip's got a good dog and a Jew harp, 3 pocket knives and a beer can church key. He showed me the water vine I came from. He filled jugs in the blue moonlight. Black Preacher Man. He was black and the preacher man. He loved the ladies and does the slick leg dance. There was Mama, Lady of the Morning. Taught me to feed coyotes by hand and take pills with no water, to love even a jagged lid. She always wanted to swim the sea. There was Daddy, working man, father. Taught me all things and all sins, from pride and hard work to bottle and what the woolly worm stripes mean come winter. When he got older, he lived like a hermit and told me to wear a headdress. His heart got him. Matt G, sitting right there, is the good friend. To folks that meet him, they know right then and then on. There was David S. He had the good stuff. Shot the snitch in the misty woods and had a parrot that sang the sound of a beer can opening. Cancer ate out his throat. Sorry. Dark hair, light-eyed woman, wife. She picks peaches and smells like home. I always want to give her another dress, another white dress. There was me. I had the copper whip memory. I lopped off the owl head. I rode on top of the boxcar train. In moonlight, I danced with the veil-born and married a light-eyed, dark-haired woman. I lived in the city and came back, seen sides of Georgia no one ever seen get swallowed slap up and paved over like the last dirt road. Still, I only remember the smallest part. I wrote it down. Southbound. Saturday morning, and me and Matt and David stuff our OD backpacks slap full and duct tape BB guns to our bicycle handlebars just like real live World War II Nazi motorbikes. And shoot, man, we took off to throw hand grenade rocks in creek sides to TIFT, Tift College All-Girls University Entranceway sign, where we shoot the light bulbs out from under the F and laugh like hell. We was off to the big jump, to the gas station where this older girl pees over a car hood for $5 without spilling a drop. Man, it was the first time I ever seen one. Shoot, man, we was off to the courthouse on Town Square to shoot 100 pigeons off the stoop. I seen one different from all the rest, white and tan, so I shot his head off because he was special. And we slapped heads on the front desk like a string of engineers and get paid 25 cents a piece as long as we don't bust no windows out. Then we was off to Castleberry's drugstore for Coca-Cola floats and comics. Next thing you know, I was riding down the railroad tracks going, ah, like somebody beating on our chest when Matt hollered, dang, man, look at that sick snake skin hanging on that branch. It was all yellow and wrinkled and rubbery. David poked it with a stick. Matt spit red and brown cherry coke on it, and just then a voice behind us said, that's the cocoon of God. 3 bigger boys had us surrounded, man. We was cut off like Anzio. They cracked their knuckles. They grabbed us up and tied us to a telephone pole. One boy held a hatchet up to my face and pulled at the front of his pants with his neck out long like a nervous dog sniffing. He said he was going to hold my head to the track and make a flat quarter. And I heard it coming too, boy. I heard 100,000 ponies coming, and just then something hit that boy in his eye, and I seen a black man in fatigues with a bushy beard pulling pins off pine cones and throwing them like they was hand grenades. It was Walking Man. Daddy said he had the PSTD from the Vietnam, and watch out, he's crazy. He walks around town with a stick on his shoulder. But man, he had them older boys on the run, and I did 2,000 rolls down the gravel because that train come, and I saw that older boy in between the boxcar caps. I shot that sumbitch right between the eyes, and we took to the woods. Man, we waded the Talaggy River. We climbed Sparrow's Bluff and crossed over ponds on beaver dams. We swung on a rope tire and must have walked 20 miles when it got dark, and just then we saw light shining leaves and jumped 2 gullies getting over yonder. There was a round stone chimney with a mouthful of fire. There used to be a house here, I said. Watch out for well holes hiding. There was a good old boy looked like Rip Van Winkle sitting on a triangle of logs stacked across another triangle's corners. He held a pocket knife like a harmonica and shaved the thick skin off his heel. He fed the slivers to a moon-eyed blue tick. There was wisteria blooms like grape clusters, man. Vines grew everywhere. And there were so many fireflies and dogwood blooms, we didn't have to look up for stars. It looked like a fairy glitter party. There was white and yellow honeysuckles big as cups. He said, drink. There was a pot of squirrel stew, sweet as granddaddy steaks on special Sundays. He said, eat. There was a smell like sausage cooking and tomato leaves coming out of cob pipe. He said, smoke. We told him we was on a grand adventure, and we got to laughing and swapping stories. We drank out of a gourd jug. The blue tick hound barked at a tree, and the good old boy leaned in real close and said, what do you do if a man gives you a blade? Give him back a coin, Matt says, so the friendship is never cut. What time does the poor boy's watch stop? He said. Working man's watch never stopped, not even Sunday on 5 o'clock, I says. And then he asked David what the Velborn see, and David said, devils in disguise. Then he asked if I ever killed a big buck, and I told him no, but I sat real still and touched the button buck when he walked by one time. He was just too young to shoot. The good old boy eyeballed me for a spell and said, I know where you can find a real adventure. I know where you can get your future told, and gave me a .22 pistol. Dadgum, man, we says, and we followed directions he gave. We waded the old muggy river, and we swam a swamp. We saw a stump with buck rabbit shit on it and a moccasin sleeping on a sweet gum limb. We saw a buzzard standing in a field with his wings out like Christ on a cross, and just then we saw a light teeter in the pines, and David said, don't go after it. It's a will-o-wisp trying to lead us astray. We traveled 40 days like Jesus. I shot fox squirrels, and we walked over creeks on logs. We saw some foxfire fungus glowing, and the moon poured blue milk on everything. Then we heard whippoorwills blow song. Tree frogs croak, and 100 million cicadas were buzz-whirring like a 1950 UFO. We couldn't hear each other to holler, man, and just then, there it was. A dead live oak with a broke-off top and one gibbet limb. It had a mouth like a black glove, and it would have took 10 of our daddies to put their arms around it. We crawled in the dead tree and climbed. 20 feet up, a dirt devil started blowing like a Texas twister, and rat bones and sticks hit us in the face, and I said, "Dang," when I saw it. There was a great horned owl, 8 feet tall, wing flapping like he was half crazy, and I said, "Here," and threw him the fox squirrels I killed just like the good old boy told me to, and it fed up and settled down, stared real hard with eyes big as saucer plates, head like a tractor tire, and its horns were a foot long, man. It told David he was going to be a drug dealer, and we thought that was funny because David was the only one of us that was a genuine DARE graduate. David got mad. It told Matt he was going to build stealth airplanes, and Matt said, "All right, man, invisible airplanes." And then its head turned to me and said, "You're going to tell stories, write words. You're going to be a poet." I didn't say nothing. Matt and David laughed at me. I was mad as 400 hell. I looked that rascal right in the eyes. He didn't blink, man, not once, so I shot his damn head off. And just then, we heard our mamas calling us into supper, and man, it felt like a beaver dam bust loose in my chest and a thrown-out sack of cats floating down the river. We ran home. I lost my pistol in a brush pile, and my best good dog got ran over. There was a soft-color sunset up ahead, and just then, all right. Childhood adventures, aren't they fun? So full of life. So this next one's the last kid poem, a little bit more somber. It's called Whippersnapper. You whippersnapper. Right? In the summer, on my weekends with Daddy, we carry truck tire inner tubes across the creek on a fell-down log, slickered and greased goose shit. Then we float down the river 22 miles. My stepmom has flowers on her bathing suit. I like it when butterflies try to suck nectar out of where her nipples are supposed to be. Daddy cuts a snake in half on top of the water with a copper wire tied to a stick, a river whip. I slice my foot wide open on a river oyster shell. I drip red pearls on the water. My armpits and the backs of my knees rub raw. The sun goes down. He gets me back home to Mom late. She does the yelling cry with tight fists. It makes me cry. Daddy cut a snake in half on top of water with a copper wire tied to a stick. I slice my foot wide open on a river oyster shell. All right. So now is the romantic portion of the evening. So I know if you guys, if I ask you to close your eyes, you probably won't do it. But I don't care about y'all. I care about the ladies here. So ladies, and everybody, at this point, if you could close your eyes. This is a good time to pull the one next to you in. If you don't have one next to you, it's a good time to find a future backward skating partner. But everybody, this is the romantic part, so everybody just close your eyes. All right? It's called heartstrings. If the belly of my woman is a drum, I pound from inside. If her breasts are the fruit of life, I drink deeply, squeezing them until red. If her ribs are the cave wall where skin slopes to her drum, I have painted my face here many times. Here is where my son's heart beats beneath hers. I hear no other music. Interstitial, which means a state of being in between. Short. After her first time, she left the woods with nothing but leaves in her hair and the soft-colored morning pulling on her country dress. Last one. Last romantic one. Sex talk. All right. I lap up jazz that sounds like wet bass, cymbal water splash on black pebble beaches, seeping just past the shy side of sin. And since we sin with eyes first, I like the diamond space between where your thighs meet your centermost flesh. The thoughts that tick when I hear exercise machines oscillate on hardwood floors. The inside of an elbow, star-shaped scar under the chin, ankle curve, shoulder blade slant, kissing whiskey, sipping wine, and you say my breath smells and tastes of oranges when I drink, and I say, well, have another. So now is the formal poetry part of the evening day of the program. This is a sonnet, and I really don't like rhymey, sing-songy poetry, and I feel like that's most people's impression of poetry because in high school I feel it's taught backwards. They seem to teach old poetry first and never get around to contemporary poetry by the end of the year. And I think it should be exactly the opposite. So here is a formal sonnet and proof that you can be formal without being sing-songy. It's called Home Birth. And again, this isn't an anti-American poem. It's just sometimes I get very discouraged with politicians. And so you can take the ending of this however you want. But sometimes they frustrate me, and I guess this is an expression of that. So Home Birth. On the night I was born, my parents fought over my registration, like a dog tag, my SS number. Should I be logged into the system, whether or not to homeschool, work odd jobs that pay only in cash my whole life? Can you imagine? Never voting, drifting. How would you even explain that life to your fourth fiance? But then again, elections are stolen. School's broken. And if you say revolution over the phone, a computer clicks on somewhere. This strange type of outside freedom, this off-grid worldview, may make you the one with the courage to do what must be done. All right. And, another formal poem of Villanelle about the David character who unfortunately becomes a drug dealer. It's called a hunting accident, which is a very common thing here in Georgia. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I've never, I'm just saying. After the bone was found, 2 dogs went missing. David had a fridge for food and a fridge for booze and parrots that sang sounds of beer cans opening. I heard a little bird was fixing to sing all the secret songs of his people that he could. 2 labs brought up a leg bone. They come up missing. David took the bird hunting, but the funny thing, he built a house and never left those woods. Had parrots that sang songs of beer cans opening. And neighbor Johnson called the police that morning. They questioned his dogs, looked for days, and did all they could. The bone was found. Johnson's labs went missing. Hunting accident was the way it got written up. He never moved far from 12 Mile Wood. Parrots sang the tune of beer cans opening when David read the story in the evening paper. David shot the snitch in the misty woods. After the femur was found, 2 dogs went missing, and parrots sang sounds of beer cans opening. So as you know, as Tom mentioned, I'm from Macon, the middle Georgia region. And, you guys enjoy, hunting's a big thing in Georgia. I'm an avid hunter, and I really don't like it when people get anti-hunting because I don't think they understand the connection between hunters and nature and what they do for nature. For example, hunters pay for 86% of this country's conservation space through hunting licenses and fees and donations. That's 86%. Whereas that in PETA? So this poem is The Hunt, and so it's about the narrator who sees the spirit of his dead father in a deer which he hunts over a period of 10 years. Now that sounds crazy, but that's what it is. So here we go. Let's go on the ride. The Hunt. The things I've seen from a deer stand, I could never fully tell you. Pre-dawn comets rain like fish scales swept off a tailgate by a headlight. The earth sweat up through Tupelo treetops. Sparrows, moles, mice, leaves crackle with frost parting maw. The woods taking a great big old yawn, and my father feeding a year after his death. You see, after his lungs filled with fluid, the way my father feared to die, the way his mother went. He couldn't even say his last words, too busy gasping to breathe like a largemouth bass tossed on hot Georgia asphalt. He tried to use a pillow to smother himself, but lacked the strength, so he tried to use my hand. I was too weak to give him death. The first time I saw him after his passing, there was such a pink haze morning I can't even tell you, except the sun shone through fall-colored leaves and bounced through mist to make morning that went from lavender to pink, orange to gold, silver to white world like cloud living. And that's when I saw him. A silhouette expression, a long-legged and ghostly thing, noiseless on the wet leaves, a shape, raising and lowering his head. He was just a budding buck, not even old enough for spikes, but I knew him by his Roman nose, the red mixed in his coat, muzzle marking, same as the lopsided beer and all my hunting and wedding photos. He walked so close, I touched his hip and said, "Dad." My teeth bled that morning. In the 3 following years, I planted fennel, winter rye, lespedeza, apple trees, and locusts. I built duck ponds, clear-cut fields, put out salt licks, and laid in wheat that keeps the wind off in winter, sun warm overhead. I made paradise and saw him rub his face on a cedar sapling to keep lice off his eyelids. He always liked that closet smell. The 5th year, snow sprinkled, and he had a solid 8-point rack. A lesser hunter might have shot him, too impatient to wait for prime, and one tried. I caught the movement, the poacher, lifting his rifle on my land in one of my deer stands, my father's image in a scope, and I made a thunderstorm in December. The 6th year, under the hunter's moon, he was still too brave for his own good. I put a bullet so close to his nose, bark chipped him, let him know I'm there. For the next 3 years, he got smart, and I saw only glimpses, snapshot flashes through the scope of him between trees, a white tail bounding away, a snort behind me. Once, I even saw him locked up with another buck, neck muscles swollen, nostrils close enough to ground to churn leaves, and I saw him grind that buck's ass into the dirt. In the 10th year, I hunted him. Soon, his teeth would get rotten, his coat mangy, antlers brittle enough to break, fighting for territory. One morning, I saw a tom turkey strut, a lizard poke his head under each and every piece of bark on the tree I was in. It fanned his neck, the same time a pileated woodpecker spread its top notch like a pair of Japanese hand fans with red dagger tips. A squirrel stood on its hind legs and pissed on me. Funny what a 30-06 does to a tree rat at 10 feet. At sunset, I heard a branch snap, a horn knock on a limb. He had 13-point rack, thick as my wrist, brow tines like flat blades, and bark chips stuck in little spikes and waxy knobs at the skull base. Dad was on the rut, nose to the trail smelling dough heat, feet dragging rows of turned leaves, belly fat on acorns. I looked at him through a scope. I prayed, "Father, I planted for more than I took, ate what I killed, carried knife and fire always, fought tooth and claw for every penny, skinned catfish on the nail tree, paid homage to the wind's direction, the sun, the way herds and clouds move. I learned where you lay, where you drink, where you make rubs and paw out a bald patch of earth, put your footprint in your back scrape and piss down your back leg. I give you the heart shot I could not give you in life." This final poem is it's a directions home. It's how to get to Macon, from anywhere, I guess. And so it's called To Home. Head south on old Highway 41 until the dead white oak with burnt limbs half raised like black preacher man praying. You know you're going right when you see bullet holes in the weight limit sign and busted bottles at its base, beside a river rock chimney, standing in the woods houseless like the last tombstone in an overgrown graveyard. Then turn east on the dirt road with a pollen-covered pond, yellow from pine paint spilled all over it. Now take care over Flat Bridge. There ain't many creek crossings made of wood no more. Just past rusted car yards and piles of tar baby railroad ties, you'll smell the city of forsythia blooms. And further south, at the end of Spur 19 in the cherry blossom shadow, Macon, the heart of Georgia. This is where a walking man pulls pins off pine cones and heaves them at cars in a long arm arc like he's still on ambush. This is where Sammy Legs the bum wallows his fist around in his armpit and picks wasp nests off your stoop for $5, where the old muggy river runs red by a hilly cemetery lined with roses, and crypts rise and yawn when the water's up. This is where I will lay my bones down.